It happened on one of those quiet winter mornings when the world outside was still asleep. I wasn't up early because I was productive or motivated. I was awake because I couldn't sleep. Again, no nightmare, no noise, no physical pain, just this heavy, strange emptiness that sat in my chest like a quiet weight, as if I had lived the wrong life for a very long time, and only now was starting to feel it. If you've ever woken up and looked around your home, the same furniture, the same walls, the same quiet, and still felt like a stranger in your own life, then you'll know exactly what I mean. I stared down at my hands, older now, softer, oh, a little thinner. My wedding ring had been off for years. The photo of my kids on the nightstand hadn't been dusted in months. My life, I realized, had slowly drifted into autopilot, and I hadn't even noticed. Somewhere along the way I had stopped being here, and then something came to me. I don't know if it was from a book, a video, or maybe just a voice inside I hadn't heard in a while. But it said something simple: just stop for 3 days. Don't fix, don't run, don't analyze, just sit still, let your mind speak. 3 days, I thought. What could 3 days possibly change? But deep down, a quieter part of me, the part that was tired of pretending, tired of being fine all the time, whispered back, if not now, then when? So I made a quiet promise to myself that morning. No plan, no journaling, no goal setting, just this. For 3 days I would stop trying to control everything and finally listen to the silence I'd spent so long avoiding. You might think that sounds simple, just sitting quietly. But let me tell you something honest. When you really sit with yourself, with no distractions, no background noise, no scrolling or channel flipping, something unexpected happens. You start hearing everything you've pushed away. I heard my fear of being forgotten. I heard the silent ache of a younger version of me who once dreamed of a slower, softer life. I heard the disappointment I never said out loud, the grief I never gave time to breathe. But I didn't run. For the first time in a long time, I just let it speak. I didn't leave the house that day. I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't even turn on the TV. I sat by the window, watched the wind move the curtains, and listened. Not to the world outside, but to the quiet house inside me. And slowly, I began to feel something I hadn't in years. Not peace, not clarity, not yet, but space. Like my heart was a cluttered room that had finally cracked open a window. Like something old had exhaled and finally let go. I'm not here to sell you a miracle. I won't tell you that sitting quietly for 3 days will fix your life. But I can tell you what happened next, and I promise it's worth hearing. So if you're still awake, if you're still with me, maybe watching this late at night like I once did, don't go just yet, because what came after is the reason I can breathe a little easier today. Day one didn't feel like a breakthrough. It felt unsettling. I thought I'd feel peaceful, like I was finally doing something spiritual. But the truth, I was uncomfortable, restless. I kept glancing at the clock. I kept reaching for my phone out of habit. I even stood up twice without meaning to, like my body forgot how to be still. Silence, when you haven't practiced it in a long time, can feel like too much space. And the first thing that fills it is your own noise. Thoughts came rushing in. Not loud ones, but subtle ones. The kind I usually don't hear because I'm too busy. Regret about something I said to my daughter 2 weeks ago. A memory of my father's funeral that I thought I had made peace with. The guilt of wasting so much time over the years, trying to be someone I thought others needed me to be. And the question underneath all of it, have I missed the point? But I didn't get up. I didn't distract myself. I just breathed, slowly, no deep breaths, no techniques. Just letting the air come and go, and I kept saying quietly in my mind, this is not about changing anything. This is about finally noticing. At some point that morning, I sat in the kitchen, sunlight coming through the window, my hands wrapped around a warm mug of tea. That's all. Just me and a cup of tea, and no agenda. And something subtle shifted. I realized how rarely I'm present, really present. Even in the simple things. I usually drink tea while reading the news, or making a list in my head, or worrying about my health, or someone else. But that moment was just tea, and just me. And it felt okay. Not amazing, not life-altering, just gently okay. And when you've been feeling emotionally scattered for years, okay is a beautiful place to begin. Later that afternoon, I took a walk. No headphones, no talking. Just footsteps on the sidewalk and the sound of birds I hadn't noticed in months. My neighborhood looked the same, but I didn't. I wasn't trying to be peaceful. I wasn't chasing any big spiritual moment. I was simply there, for the first time in a long time. And then came a memory, soft like a whisper. Me, as a child sitting in my grandfather's lap. He never said much. He just held me and let me rest. I realized that's what I was giving myself. After decades of trying to improve, achieve, explain, or fix something, I was finally letting myself just be held by the quiet. That evening I lit a candle, not for ritual, just as a symbol, a small flame that reminded me presence doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be steady. I didn't sleep better that night, but I didn't feel as lost either. And when I woke up the next morning, I didn't check my phone right away. I just lay there, breathing, and I whispered to myself, day one is done. I made it, not because I did something, but because for once I didn't. I'll be honest with you, day two was harder. Not because something dramatic happened, quite the opposite. It was because everything I thought I'd buried started to show up. I woke up before the sun. The house was silent. I thought maybe I'll just sit in bed a few more minutes. But before I even moved, a wave of something old, something heavy, rose in my chest. It was sadness. Not sadness about anything specific, just the kind that lives deep in your bones. The kind that's quiet but thick, like fog. And for a moment I almost reached for my old comforts. A distraction, a to-do list, a reason to feel productive. But I remembered the promise. Don't fix, don't fight. Just sit with it. So I sat. I sat with the ache in my chest. I sat with the images that started to float up. My first heartbreak, the day my mother passed, the moment I realized one of my kids no longer needed me the way they used to. I didn't try to push them away. I didn't tell myself to be strong. I didn't explain anything. I just breathed and let it all be there. Like uninvited guests I was finally willing to welcome in. And then it happened. Something I wasn't expecting. I cried, not loud, not dramatic, just slow, quiet tears that felt like they'd been waiting years to fall. I cried for the versions of me that never got a proper goodbye. I cried for the moments I held it together when I really needed someone to notice I was falling apart. And as I cried, I felt something else. Not shame, not weakness, but relief. It was like my heart had been holding its breath for a long time, and it could finally exhale. You see, what no one tells you, especially after 50, is that just because the world expects you to have it together doesn't mean your heart stopped needing attention. You don't stop needing space to feel just because you have gray hair and grandkids. You don't stop being human. That afternoon I lit another candle, not for healing, not for God, just to say, I'm still here. And I wrote something down, just one sentence. I forgive myself for surviving, because sometimes survival means we carry more than we realize. It means we make it through the storms, but forget to process the rain. It means we get so good at moving on that we never stop to move through. That night, I made a cup of warm chamomile tea. No sugar, no TV, no multitasking. Just the quiet warmth in my hands and a deep breath in my chest. And I remembered something I once heard in a Dharma talk. The feelings you avoid become the pain you carry, but the feelings you allow become the peace you deserve. Day 2 didn't give me answers. It gave me a release. And when I laid down to sleep, yes, I cried again. But it was softer this time. Like something had shifted inside. Maybe this is what Buddhist practice really is. Not some perfect meditation, not a goal to reach, but a willingness to be with yourself exactly as you are, without turning away. And that, I realized, is a kind of love most of us were never taught to give ourselves. By day 3, something had changed. Not outside. The world still looked the same. But inside, there was this stillness, not total, not perfect, but undeniable. I woke up and didn't feel rushed. I didn't need to reach for anything. I didn't feel the usual pressure to get back to normal. Because for the first time in years, this was normal. Just being, just breathing, just enough. I sat at the kitchen table, wrapped in my old gray sweater, and watched the light come through the curtains like I had 100 mornings before. But this time, I actually saw it. I noticed how the steam from my tea curled into the air like a soft exhale. I noticed the quiet hum of the fridge. I noticed the way my hands rested gently on the mug. Not tense, not clenched, just there. Still. And that's when it hit me. It wasn't that my life had been wrong. It wasn't that I'd failed. It wasn't even that I had missed anything. It's that I had never paused long enough to actually be here. All those years, I'd been chasing peace like it was something out there. And better routines, better habits, better versions of myself. But peace had been sitting beside me the whole time, quietly waiting for me to slow down enough to notice. I didn't need to become anything. I just needed to stop pretending I wasn't already whole. And the simplicity of that realization, the truth of it, moved me in a way nothing ever had. I thought about all the years I'd told myself I had to keep pushing, to hold it together, to stay strong for everyone else, to not fall apart. But maybe falling apart a little was the very thing that let me come back together. That afternoon, I walked outside without any agenda. No earbuds, no destination. Just the wind on my face and the sound of leaves crunching underfoot. And I heard it again, that quiet voice inside. Only this time, it didn't ask questions. It didn't beg for answers. It simply said, "You are here." And that's enough. I stopped walking. I looked up at the sky, and I smiled. Not because everything in my life was perfect. It wasn't. Not because I had solved all my problems. I hadn't. But because I had touched something real. Something simple. Something still. That evening, I wrote one last sentence in my notebook. 5 words that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. Peace is always right here. Not in the past. Not in the future. But right here, in this breath, in this moment, in this willingness to pause and just be. That's what 3 days gave me. Not a new life, but a new way to be alive. You might be wondering, can 3 days really change a lifetime of pain, habits, or regret? And I'll tell you, no. Not in the way most people think. It won't erase your past. It won't fix everything. It won't suddenly make your life feel figured out. But 3 days can do something far more important. They can interrupt the noise. They can quiet the autopilot you've been living on for years. They can create a crack in the wall you've built around your own heart, just wide enough for the light to get in. That's what happened to me. I didn't become some enlightened person. I still forget things. I still get annoyed. I still worry. But now, I see it when it's happening. And that small space between me and my reaction, that pause, that awareness, is the beginning of everything. You see, Buddhist practice was never about becoming perfect. It was never about suppressing your feelings or escaping your life. It was, and always has been, about waking up to what's already here. The Buddha said, within this very body, this very mind, is the path to liberation. He didn't say you had to travel across the world. He didn't say you had to leave your job, your family, or your city. He just said, look here. Look inward. Start with what you've already been carrying, because that's where peace has always been waiting. We spend so many years, especially after 50, chasing the idea that peace is a destination. When I retire, I'll rest. When the kids are okay, I'll slow down. When I fix this pain, this habit, this part of me, then I'll deserve peace. But what if that's backwards? What if peace doesn't come after everything is perfect? What if peace is what helps you stop needing everything to be perfect? That's what 3 days showed me. 3 days gave me just enough distance from my usual patterns to realize I had never actually met myself in silence. Not really. I had never looked at my own pain, my own tiredness, my own tenderness, without trying to fix or hide it. And in that space, I found something I never knew I needed. Permission to feel. Permission to pause. Permission to be. And that is life-changing, because once you've sat with your own soul, not judged it, not tried to make it better, just sat, you can never go back to living unconsciously again. You begin to live on purpose, not a big, flashy purpose, but a simple one, a sacred one. To be here, to see clearly, to meet each moment with just enough softness. So no, 3 days won't fix you. But maybe you were never broken. Maybe you were just waiting for a quiet moment to remember. You've been enough this whole time. After the 3rd day ended, I didn't go back to life as usual. Not because something dramatic had changed, but because something inside me had become quiet. And that quietness didn't want to leave. The next morning, I still made breakfast. I still checked the mail. I still answered the phone when my daughter called. But underneath all of it, there was a stillness, a kind of presence I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't about doing everything differently. It was about being a little more awake while doing it. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel rushed to get through the day. I noticed the warmth of the mug in my hands, the way the sun stretched slowly across the kitchen floor, the soft creak of the wooden chair as I sat. Ordinary things, but somehow they felt like gifts. And more than anything, I felt something that had been missing from my life for a very long time. A sense of inner steadiness, not a feeling of control, not certainty, but a soft, grounded awareness that whatever arose, I could meet it without collapsing. The noise in my head didn't vanish. It still came. The old doubts, the worry, the wandering thoughts. But now I didn't follow them down every road. I didn't get pulled into their storm. I could watch them come like clouds across the sky and let them pass. I could say to myself, this is just a thought, and choose not to believe it. That's something I never knew I had the power to do. Before those 3 days, I thought my mind was me, that every anxious thought, every painful memory, every inner critic was part of who I was. But now I know they're just visitors. And I don't have to serve them tea. People around me noticed the shift too, not because I said anything, but because I stopped reacting the way I used to. When my son forgot to call me back, I didn't spiral into stories of being unimportant. When the neighbor complained about something small, I didn't carry her energy for the rest of the day. I was still me, but lighter, less tangled, more open. And it made me wonder how much of our suffering comes not from what happens, but from how we meet what happens, from the resistance, the storytelling, the habits we never question. That's what the practice gave me. Not answers, but space. And in that space, I began to see that peace isn't something we find once and then keep forever. It's something we return to, again and again. Every time we pause, every time we breathe, every time we choose stillness over reaction. Some days I still forget. Some days the old patterns come rushing back. But now I know the way home. I've felt what it's like to sit with myself and not be afraid of what I find. I've learned that I don't need a retreat in the mountains or a guru in a distant land. I just need 3 quiet days, or even just 1 quiet moment. Right here, in this life. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." And I used to think that sounded nice but vague. Now I understand. He wasn't talking about some abstract philosophy. He was talking about this. The space between 2 breaths. The pause before a reaction. The moment you look at your own suffering with soft eyes and say, I see you. I'm not running anymore. That's peace, not perfection. presence, and it changes everything. There's a moment that stays with me now, long after the 3 days ended. It wasn't a big realization, not something I wrote down or tried to explain. It was just one ordinary morning, a week or two later, when I found myself washing a bowl at the sink. The window was open. There was a breeze, and I realized I wasn't thinking about anything at all. I was just washing the bowl. Not rushing, not analyzing, not replaying a conversation from yesterday, just present, the water warm against my hands, the sky pale and wide above the trees. I remember pausing right there and whispering inside, "This is it." This is what I'd been looking for all of those years. Not some dramatic change, not a complete transformation, just this, the feeling of being truly here, of being alive in my own body, in my own moment, without needing to become anything else. It wasn't peace like the world sells it, not the kind you buy in books or podcasts or perfect routines. It was peace that arises when you stop running, when you stop performing, when you stop abandoning yourself. And it all started with 3 days. 3 days of not fixing, not chasing, not numbing. 3 days of sitting with everything I usually avoid. 3 days of listening to the quiet that lives beneath the noise. And if you've made it to this point in the video, maybe something in you is ready for that too. Maybe you've been carrying more than you realize. Maybe your body is tired in ways even sleep can't fix. Maybe your heart has been asking for your attention softly for years. Maybe, like me, you're not lost, just overdue for stillness, not broken, just buried beneath too much doing. If that's true, then I want to say this gently. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You don't need to retire first. You don't need to fix your past. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need 3 days, 3 mornings where you don't rush. 3 afternoons where you don't escape yourself. 3 nights where you sit in the quiet, even if it's uncomfortable, and just let your breath come and go without needing to improve it. And if 3 days feels too much right now, start with 1. Start with this evening. Just close your eyes for a few minutes after this video ends. Put your hand on your chest and let yourself arrive. No effort, no judgment, just arrival. No effort, no judgment, because you're already enough. You always were. And this practice isn't about changing who you are. It's about returning to the softness, the wisdom, the quiet that's been with you all along. You don't need anyone's permission to rest. You don't need to earn your peace. Just try, gently, honestly, 3 days. And when you do, write to me, let me know what you felt. Not because you have to, but because something beautiful happens when we share the quiet parts of ourselves. And if this video met you where you needed to be met, maybe send it to someone who's been carrying too much for too long. Not to convince them. Not to convince them. Not to say, "I see you." You're not alone. And it's okay to pause now. The Buddha never asked us to be perfect. He simply invited us to wake up, 1 breath at a time, 1 moment of stillness at a time, 1 quiet return, after so many years of leaving ourselves behind. And if that journey starts today, even just a little, then this video was worth making. Sometimes Healing doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with fireworks or revelations. It comes quietly, like when you notice the sky again, or when your breath slows without effort, or when, for the first time in years, you sit in your own home and don't feel restless. It comes when you no longer need to prove your worth, when you stop rehearsing conversations in your head, when you realize you're allowed to live simply, and that simplicity is not failure, it is freedom. You stop needing permission to rest. You stop apologizing for your softness. You stop believing the lie that you are too late because something inside you finally knows. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not someone who missed their chance. You are someone who is arriving. The moment you choose stillness, the moment you sit down gently with your own breath, is the moment you begin again. And that is enough. No one taught us how to be with ourselves. Most of us were raised to keep going, to achieve, to earn our place in the world. But the Buddha didn't teach striving. He taught awareness. He didn't teach how to be impressive. He taught how to be free. And in these 3 days, or even in the decision to try, you've already taken a step toward that freedom. So let this final moment be simple. Just close your eyes if you feel ready. Let your hands rest without needing to hold anything. Let your jaw soften. Let your breath arrive and whisper inside yourself. No voice needed. Just this. I'm still here. I am still worthy. And I'm not leaving myself anymore. Let it settle. Let the stillness rise. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. And tomorrow, or the next day, if you forget, just come back. Come back with gentleness, with kindness. Come back without shame, because this practice was never about doing it right. It was about not giving up on your own presence. You're already doing it. Right now, right here. That's enough.